Namaskar. Postures in temple sculpture and Odissi dance. In India, dance and sculpture are interdependent art forms and they are interlinked in social, cultural, historical, and religious streams. Indian classical dances, temple architecture, and dance sculptures are complementary to one another. Both the dancer and architect manipulate spaces. A dancer through the movement of body and an architect by the design of built forms. Sculptural representations of dance have preserved beautiful and striking movements of the ancient dance traditions. Dance scenes can be seen in the Udayagiri and Khandagiri caves of 2nd century BC in Odisha. Stupas at Bharat, Sanchi and Amaravati are brimming with panels of dancers. Beautiful group dances adorn Gandhara art and of course the early medieval temples all over India. The textual and sculptural sources are the authentic evidences to uncover the past techniques of Indian dance and stand as a testimony in the process of reconstruction of classical dance movements. The temple dancing rituals in ancient times might have influenced sculptures to integrate dance sculptures in temple architecture. Any attempt at reconstructing a history of the classical dance in India, therefore, would rely not only on dance texts and commentaries, but of necessity delve deep into what was preserved in the practicing traditions of preceptors and dancers. Continuous cross-reference to sculptural material would be absolutely necessary for understanding the dance. From the above statement, it is evident that postures are central focus of both sculpture and dance, either static or moving. If sculpture represents arrested movements, then dance represents moving sculpture. It is quite a challenge even to say who inspired whom, whether dance inspired sculpture or the other way around. Just like which came first, the chicken or the egg. I have been given the topic to discuss on Odissi Nritya or Sthapatyar Bhangi. This is an ocean-like wider topic to discuss. Hence, I humbly attempt for a narrowest canon to approach this topic, considering the time limit. Postures in temple sculpture and Odissi dance. Here I would like to strictly stick to the meaning given by Sarangadeva, who says, Sthanakas are static postures and charis are invariably connected to the sthanakas. At the beginning and end of the movement, there must be a posture. He defines sthanakas as any special position of the body which is motionless. That is before and after a movement. Thus, charis are invariably connected to the sthanakas and combination of these two elements result in karanas. Medieval theoreticians who wrote on dance and drama, starting from 12th century theoretician Sarangadeva, who wrote the magnum opus Sangita Ratnakara, till to 18th century writer Tulaja, who penned Sangita Samrata, have broadly divided dance into two categories, Marga and Desi. The first category strictly adhered to the rules of Natya Sastra, which meant established path. The other tradition, Desi, indicated the regional tradition. The transitional forms created by the blending of Marga and regional variations are also called as Desi. The treatises and manuals which came after 12th century discussed elaborately on the Desi tradition. except Manasa Ulas of Someswara, all other subsequent texts like Sangita Ratnakar of Sarangadeva, Nritya Ratnavali of Jayasanapati, Sangita Samyasara of Parshwadeva, Nityadhyaya of Asokamala, Nartana Ninaya of Pundarika, Sangita Darpana of Damodara, and Sangita Makaranda of Vada provide significant information on Desi tradition. If we take into consideration Odromagadhi, mentioned in Natya Shastra as the precursor of Odyssey, then it won't be wrong to say the present day Odissi dance form is a result of both Marga and Desi tradition, which evolved after 18th century, acquiring their definite form, content, and technique. I would like to approach our topic today in three segments: textual evidence of Marga and Desi tradition postures in Odissi, depiction of dance postures in temple architectural sculpture, and representation of temple sculpture in Odissi dance. Let's first focus on the textual evidence of Marga and Desi tradition postures in Odissi. The stance indicating masculine and feminine energy gained importance in Odissi. The dance movement are built around two postures, the chauka and trivagi. The chauka is a position imitating a square, a masculine stance with the weight of the body equally distributed, and there is a distance of 1.5 to 2 feet between 2 feet. The Trivagi is a beautiful feminine stance where the body is bent at the neck, torso, and knee. The chauka is the regional name of the Chaturastra Stanaka or the square position codified in Manasa, Sangita Ratnakara, and later texts. The Trivagi finds its earliest reference in the 13th century text Sangita Samyasara of Parshwadeva. All the Stanakas of Desi tradition, namely Swastika, Vardhamana, Nandyavarta, Samhata, all 24, are in practicing tradition of present-day classical dance of South India and Odisha. A challi in Odissi dance, parlance is chari. The challis are the ways of walking and covering the space. These movements are derived from Natya Shastra, Sangita Ratnakara, Manasa, Abhinaya Chandrika, and other texts. The standing posture is known as Utha, sitting posture is Boitha, the gait is called as Gati, and the running is called Bura. Shifting of the weight from swaying the body from one side to the other is called as Bhasa. With regard to Brahmaris, they are known as Bhori in local parlance. The Antar, Bahya, and Swastika and Anga Brahmaris mentioned in Sangita Ratnakara, Sangita Narayana, and other later texts are effectively used in Odyssey. Various types of jumping and leaping movements called as Utplitis in the Desi tradition are called Utplavanas, are extensively employed in Odissi. The existing tradition of Odissi dance largely follows the codification of techniques structured by the eminent gurus. The nomenclature given by them was based on both the Sanskrit and regional forms. For example, the Padaveda in Samhata Stanaka is recognized as Yugma Pada and Parabhrutta is known as Tribhanga Pada. While showing the Bhattuka Bhairava or Shiva in furious mode, Brahma Stanaka is employed in Odissi. However, here the leg is stretched while lifting the knee is kept in a slightly bent position. The final position of each movement segment is invariably status quo. The most pleasing and aesthetic elements of both Mahari and Gotipur traditions were observed in the Odissi dance repertoire, that is in practice today. Bandha Nritya, the text such as Nartana Ninaya of Pundarika categorizes as the Bandha and Anibandha. The text says Bandha Nritya is the dance which is structured and it follows the gati and such rules, while Anibandha doesn't follow such rules. The same opinion is seconded by Damadara in Sangita Darpana. Even now, Bandha term is used in Odyssey to indicate dances involving acrobatic movements, which involve Desi Karanas, Charis and Stanakas. Abhinay Chandrika also refers to 10 bandhas, nrityas or acrobatic dances. Gotipur dance tradition has retained almost all the acrobatic Stanakas, Charis and Karanas mentioned in the Manasa, Sangita Ratnakara, Nritya Ritnavali, Sangita Samyashara and other texts. The Desi Karanas and their elements may not be known to present-day Gotipo gurus. However, they have learned many techniques of this ancient tradition as bandhas in oral tradition. And the original names have been replaced by the Odia terms. For example, Samasuji is known as Chira in Gotipo parlance. Nataprastha Karana is called as Nahunya and Kurmalaga Karana is known as Bekshana. The postures and Karanas employed by Gotipos can also be seen in dance sculpture of temples. Charis are given more importance in the Desi tradition, whereas Marga tradition Karanas occupy prominent place. It is interesting to note that there are more than 75 Charis described in important texts on the Desi tradition, which is more than double the number of Marga Charis. From the aesthetic point of view, Charis of Desi tradition are more appealing than the Utpluti Karanas. Though Charis are movement units, the Desi Charis sometimes do not strictly follow the definition. It is palpable that some Desi Charis and Karanas are so named because a movement unit ends with a particular posture. For example, Suchyanta Karana, Tribhanga Chari, etc. If any movement ends with a Samasuchi or Bisamasuchi Stanaka, then such Karana is called Suchyanta. Likewise, if any movement ends with threefold posture, then it is called Tribhangi Chari. Depiction of dance postures in temple architectural sculpture. As dance became a mode of everyday worship in the temples and regarded as a mode of entertainment in the courts, a class of temple dancers and courtesans proficient in the art of dancing were portrayed in temple premises and royal settings respectively. In religious themes, the devotees are in the dance movements. Dance and music became an important mode in depicting the gods, Gana, Apsara, Kinara, Salabhanjikas and other celestial beings in temple architecture. Portraying the images in dancing mode had opened a new avenue for the artists to express themselves in a creative way. New concepts and themes were created to depict graceful movements. Dance and music echoed through and through in the medieval temples. Rhythm, balance, beauty and harmony epitomized the temples through the elegant and poised movements of the images. The dance traditions practiced in the respective periods and the orchestra supporting dances were the favorite subject of sculptures. They have frozen the beautiful movements of dynamic art form through their skilled hands and creative minds and immortalized dance. These sculptures were highly dance conscious, and this could be felt in the perceptual application of dance techniques in original form as rendered by the canons of the text pertaining to dance. Here, the sloka Vina tu Natya Sastrena Chitra Sutrena Sudu Vidha The sloka from the 4th century text Vishnu Dharmottara Purana can be recalled that states that it is very difficult to attain the knowledge of Chitra Sutra without Nritya Shastra. Therefore, it can be argued that the Natya and Chitra shared a similar content and form in ancient forms. The major difference here is that the former form is three-dimensional, whereas the later form is two-dimensional. In other ways, also, Silpa and Chitra are closely related to Natya. The rules of iconography appears to have been derived from Natya Shastra. The Indian sculptures are often the frozen versions of representations of the gestures and poses of dance described in Natya Shastra. The Shilpa and Chitra are based on a system of median measures, postures of symmetry and asymmetry, and on the Stanakas. The concept of perfect symmetry is present in Shilpa and Chitra as in Natya, and that is indicated by the term Sama. As in Natya, so in Chitra and Shilpa. The varied Drishti, Bhava, Abhinaya, Anga and Upanga present a supreme picture, the Paramachitra. The Natya and Shilpa Shastra developed a remarkable approach to the structure of human body and delineated the relation between its central point, the vertical and horizontals. It then coordinated them, first with the position of movements of the principal joints of neck, pelvis, knees and ankles, and then with the emotive stage, the expressions. Dance has influenced the sculptures to sigil the dynamic movements on the walls of temples. It is very much imperative to mention that the temples of South India, built under the patronage of Chalukyas, Hoysalas, Kakatiyas, Pallavas, Cholas, Chodaganga, Deva, Kesari, Suryavamsi and Vijayanagara kings portray exclusive themes that represent and interpret dance and music in greater dimension of aesthetic sensibilities. Dance and paintings were extensively used to embellish a number of temples. A careful study of temple architecture, known for its rich variety and aesthetic standards, indicate the involvement of sculptors, architects, painters, dancers, musicians, and patrons in contributing original and the first-hand information on dance, music, and other art traditions which prevailed during historical times. The dance sculptures in ancient temples stand as a testimony for the performing arts that were practiced in the contemporary society. Temples in Odisha. The landscape of Odisha is dotted with a large number of temples. The temples of Odisha conform to the Indo-Aryan Nagara style of architecture with distinctive features specific to this region. An Odissan temple usually consists of a sanctum, one of the several front porches, usually with pyramidal roofs, a dancing hall, and a hall of offering. Rajarani Temple is remarkable for its sculptural excellence, profusion of ornaments, exuberant architectural features, and multiple scroll work. Tall, slender, sophisticated Naikas gracing the walls of the sanctum, particularly on the lower Jangha, curved in bold relief, depicted in various roles and modes. These Naikas are vivacious and lively with their fascinating facial expression and elastic movements. Lingaras Temple spires is around 180 feet tall. There are more than 64 smaller shrines in the sprawling temple complex as well. They are magnificently decorated with sculptures of gods and goddesses, dancers and musicians. Mukteswara temple features exquisitely carved details and lavish sculptures. The intricate carvings showcase a unique blend of Buddhist, Jaina and Hindu styles. The elaborately ornate stone arch at the entrance is the proud reminiscence of Buddhist influence in Odisha, and indeed a true example of architectural marvel. The temple is famous for its splendid stone archway and the ceiling with 8-petal lotus inside its porch. Jagannath Temple, also known as White Pagoda, enshrines Krishna, Subhadra, Balabhadra. The temple abounds in sculptures in many arresting poses. Various sculptures in what is known as Odissi parlance as Mardala and Parshva Mardala, playing upon the drum with the arms across the chest in Dola Hasta are found in larger numbers. Besides, many images are playing the flute and the lute and the cymbals, in addition to bhangis of postures, alasa, darpana, chintamudra, all illustrate the distinct vocabulary of Odissi. Sun Temple, built in 13th century by King Narsingha Kesari, it was conceived as a gigantic solar chariot with 12 pairs of exquisitely ornate wheels dragged by 7 horses. The sanctum and the Jagmohana together stand on a common platform studded with an intricate sculptures representing dance and music. The monument is a treasure house of dance sculptures. In the words of legendary dance critic Sunil Kothari, the temple is the lexicon of Indian dance. Some of the standing figures on the parapet, known as Surasundaris, appear to be singing and dancing to the divine beings in heaven. These rare life-size figures are freestanding sculptures and not attached to bas relief. On the 3 tier of the Jagmohan, scores of such figures can be seen engaged in dancing and playing various instruments. These poses come to life in Odyssey in the dance numbers Batu and Pallavi. Representation of temple sculpture in Odissi dance. Odissi is characterized by simplicity of grace and redolent with sculptures poses which are reminiscent of glorious stone sculptures of Konark and other temples, says Kanakarele. This statement can be further justified by the official codification of Odissi dance, which took place in 1958 through the formation of Jayantika, a group of gurus and scholars who came together in the mid-20th century. However, this fact is often elided in historical and national narratives of the dance that invokes a seamless trajectory back to antiquity, citing both sculptural and scriptural evidence. Jayantika tried to cement the recently achieved classical status by validating the existing dance with reference to the then literature, sculpture and textual theories. Despite differences in opinions, at the end, Odissi repertoire was decided for Mangalacharan, Bhattu, Pallavi, Abhinaya and Moksha Nata. It is crucial for our topic today to shed some light on the proceedings of a Jayantika meeting that held on 29th of August 1960. We find a detailed description of Bhattu Nritya, passed and signed by Bhattakrishna Sena, Dayanidhi Das, Raghunath Datta, Balaram Mishra and Dhirendranath Patnaik. The main points are the item is dedicated to Shiva in the form of Patukeshwara Bhairava. It should start by showing the musicians playing the veena, flute, mardala and manjira. It should contain the Stai Ukuta and variety of Khandi, Arasa and Muktai. It should contain the following bhangis accompanied by movements of eyes, neck, akunchana, nikunchana, darpana, viraja, karihasta, katichinna, abhimana, parshvamardala and most importantly, it should not contain chakra brahmari. The declaration ends with the sentence that everybody should follow this pattern. Although the group was formed with the hope of creating a consensus, artistic differences sprouted within the group, especially with regard to how different members envisioned the repertoire of Odyssey. The divisions were over the spirit of dance, which was becoming a symbol of Odia cultural identity. As it moved to the national and international stages with new performers and audiences, even though it's a never-ending ongoing process, the untiring lifelong contributions of great gurus like Pankaj Das, Devaprasad Das, Kelucharan Mahapatra, Mayadhar Rao, Surendranath Jana and many more are imperative to our study as each of them studied temple sculpture in their choreographic repertoire in different ways. With this, we can conclude today's topic. By all counts and with the proven results, it is no wonder that both sculpture and dance remain interdependent and complementary throughout. Postures play a crucial role in the interrelationship of arrested movements and moving sculpture. While sculptures freeze a moving movement and dance moves static posture. Thank you.